The metal walls of the USS Horizon hummed with activity as Commander Samantha Ellis stared at the monitor in front of her. The ship had been mapping the outer reaches of the Kuiper Belt for 3 months, and boredom had settled into the crew's bones. But now something different glowed on her screen, a signal unlike anything they had encountered before. "Dr. Walton, what do you make of this?" she asked, pointing to the pulsing dot at the edge of their scanning range. Peter Walton adjusted his glasses and leaned closer. His eyes widened. "That's not natural, Commander. The pattern is too regular, too intentional. Could it be one of ours? An old probe, maybe?" "No," he said firmly. "We've never sent anything out this far with that signature. This is something else." Commander Ellis tapped her fingers against the console. Discovery was what they lived for, what they had trained for. She pressed the intercom button. "Bridge, this is Commander Ellis. Change course to intercept the signal at coordinates 47 Mark 2.3. Alert all department heads." The ship hummed louder as its engines redirected their thrust. Samantha felt the familiar flutter of excitement in her stomach. This could be it. The discovery that would define her career, maybe even human history. Hours later, the main viewing screen showed a dark object floating against the backdrop of stars. It was massive, nearly twice the size of their own vessel, with an unusual design that featured swooping curves and geometric patterns etched into what appeared to be a metallic hull. "Definitely artificial," said Officer Judy Miller from her station, "and definitely not human." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now, drifting before them was their answer. "Any response to our hails?" Ellis asked. Communications Officer Ben Harper shook his head. "Nothing, Commander. But there's something else. A repeated transmission coming from the vessel. It's not directed at us specifically. Seems to be broadcasting on all frequencies. Can we decode it?" "Working on it now," Harper replied, his fingers dancing across his keyboard. "It's not using any encryption we recognize. The computer is trying to find patterns." Dr. Walton moved to stand beside Commander Ellis. "We should be cautious," he said quietly. "We know nothing about who built this or why it's here." Ellis nodded. "Agreed. But we need to investigate. Launch a probe. Keep the ship at safe distance." The probe's cameras showed the alien vessel in greater detail as it approached. Despite appearing abandoned, soft light still pulsed within its structure, visible through what might have been windows or viewing ports. "Power readings are minimal but present," Officer Miller reported. "Life support systems appear to be functioning, but no signs of life forms aboard." "Commander," Harper called out suddenly. "The computer has partially decoded the transmission. It's..." He paused, looking confused. "It's just 3 words, repeating." "What words?" Ellis asked. Harper looked up, his face pale. "Turn back." A chill ran through the bridge. Dr. Walton exchanged glances with Ellis. "Could be a warning," Walton said. "Or it could be a standard automated message for any approaching vessels." Ellis considered this. Humanity had come too far to turn away at the first sign of the unknown. Their mission was to explore, to learn, to push boundaries. "Prepare a boarding team," she decided. "Full containment protocols. I want to know what's on that ship." Officer Miller looked concerned. "The message seems pretty clear, Commander." Ellis smiled slightly. "Throughout history, every major discovery came with warnings, Miller. The ocean was too vast, the mountains too high, space too dangerous. Yet here we are." She stood up from her chair. "Humanity doesn't turn back. It's not in our nature." As the boarding team prepared, no one noticed the alien vessel's lights pulse slightly faster, as if in response to their decision. The transmission continued its endless loop. Turn back, turn back, turn back. They would not listen, and soon they would understand why. The large conference room at Lunar Command buzzed with tension. Pictures of the alien vessel filled the screens on the walls. Admiral Joe Freeman stood at the head of the table, his face serious as he looked at the men and women seated around him. "Commander Ellis has sent us all the data from the initial scans," he said. Now we need to decide our next move. This is the first confirmed alien vessel humanity has ever encountered. Dr. Nancy Miller raised her hand. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun and her eyes were bright with excitement. The scientific value here is beyond measure, she said. Think of what we could learn about their technology, their culture, their biology. We can't just ignore this opportunity. Admiral Freeman frowned. The message is clear, turn back. In my experience, when someone tells you to leave, there's usually a good reason. Captain Frank Collins, who had served in space for over 20 years, cleared his throat. The message could mean anything. Maybe it's a standard warning to keep others away from a ship that had engine troubles. Maybe it's a cultural greeting we don't understand. We can't just assume the worst. Or maybe, Admiral Freeman countered, it's exactly what it sounds like. A warning to stay away from something dangerous. The room fell quiet as Director Diane Powell entered. She was the head of space exploration, and her word carried more weight than anyone else's in the room. Her dark suit matched her serious expression, but there was a gleam in her eye that those who knew her recognized. I've reviewed Commander Ellis's report, she said, taking a seat at the table. The President has authorized me to make the final decision on this matter. Dr. Miller leaned forward. Director, think of the knowledge we could gain. This could advance our technology by centuries, and possibly expose Earth to unknown threats, Admiral Freeman added. I recommend we establish a quarantine zone and study the vessel from a distance. Director Powell tapped her fingers on the table. How far are we willing to go for progress, for knowledge? Throughout human history, warnings have been given at every frontier. Sail too far and you'll fall off the edge of the earth. Fly too high and the gods will strike you down. She stood up and walked to the main screen showing the alien ship. And yet here we are. We've conquered the air, sent people to the moon, established colonies on Mars. Each time, someone warned us to turn back. She turned to face the room. We will not turn back now. Admiral Freeman's face darkened. At least let us take every possible precaution. A small team, full quarantine protocols, and at the first sign of trouble, they pull out. Director Powell nodded. Agreed. We'll assemble an elite team, the best of the best. The USS Pioneer is our most advanced research vessel. It can reach the alien ship in 12 days. Captain Collins spoke up. I volunteer to lead the mission. No, Powell said. Commander Ellis made first contact. She should see this through. The meeting ended, and plans were quickly put into motion. Scientists and military personnel were selected. Equipment was loaded onto the Pioneer. Within 3 days, they were ready to launch. Dr. Miller stood beside Director Powell as they watched the Pioneer leave Earth orbit. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Dr. Miller asked quietly. Director Powell's eyes never left the ship as it grew smaller against the blackness of space. Fear of the unknown has held humanity back for too long, she said. Every great discovery comes with risk. If we had listened to every warning, we'd still be living in caves afraid of fire. As the Pioneer disappeared from view, Admiral Freeman joined them. His face was grim. I hope you're right, he said to Powell, because if that warning means what I think it means, we may have just opened a door we can't close. Powell smiled, slightly. Or we've opened a door to humanity's greatest chapter yet. Little did they know. Both of them were right. The USS Pioneer moved slowly toward the alien vessel. Its engines hummed quietly as Commander Ellis looked out the main window. The strange ship loomed larger now, its dark metal surface catching the distant sunlight. Final approach checks, Commander Ellis ordered. Everyone report in. Lieutenant Alan Garcia confirmed weapon systems were ready. Dr. Peter Walton verified all scientific equipment was operational. Dr. Kate Summers ensured the biological containment systems were active. Engineer Ryan Murphy gave the green light on all ship systems. Commander, said Dr. Walton, I still think we should consider the warning more carefully. Ellis shook her head. Orders are orders, Doctor. Director Powell wants us to explore this ship, and that's what we'll do. The Pioneer slowed to a stop alongside the alien craft. Up close, the vessel was even more impressive. Strange patterns covered its hull, shapes that seemed to shift slightly, when not looked at directly. "Prepare the docking tube," Ellis commanded. "Lieutenant Garcia, you'll lead the first team with Dr. Summers and Murphy, full containment suits. I'll follow with Dr. Walton once you secure the entry point." They put on their protective suits, checking each other's seals twice. The suits would protect them from any biological threats and could handle short exposure to vacuum if needed. "Remember," Ellis said as they gathered at the airlock, "we don't touch anything without clearance. We document everything. First sign of danger, we retreat. Understood?" Everyone nodded. The airlock cycled, and the team moved through the docking tube into the alien ship. Inside, soft blue lights activated as they entered. The air was breathable according to their sensors, but they kept their helmets on as a precaution. "It's responding to our presence," whispered Dr. Summers. "The systems are still active after who knows how long." The corridors were tall and wide, with smooth walls that had the same shifting patterns as the outside hull. The team moved slowly, recording everything with their cameras. "No signs of the original crew," Lieutenant Garcia reported, sweeping his light across an empty room that might have been living quarters. They continued deeper into the ship. The lights followed them, turning on ahead and off behind as if guiding them somewhere. "This technology is centuries beyond ours," Murphy said as he scanned a panel that lit up when he approached. "The power systems are still running perfectly, maybe using some kind of self-sustaining reaction." Dr. Walton studied the walls. "These patterns, they're not just decoration. They might be some form of written language or data storage." As they reached what appeared to be the center of the ship, they found a large, circular room. In the middle stood a raised platform with what looked like a control console. Above it hung a three-dimensional display showing stars and planets. "It's a star map," Dr. Walton said. Excitement breaking through his caution, he pointed to a specific cluster of stars. "And look, this system is marked differently. About 40 light years from Earth, if I'm reading this scale correctly." Commander Ellis stepped forward. "Is it their homeworld? Or a destination?" Dr. Summers suggested. "Maybe this ship was on its way there when something happened." Murphy approached one of the wall panels that was pulsing with light. "Commander, I think this might be a data storage unit. If we could access it—" "Careful," Ellis warned. "Don't activate anything yet." But as Murphy moved his scanner near the panel, it suddenly lit up brightly. Symbols began to flash across it faster than they could follow. "What did you do?" Garcia asked, raising his weapon instinctively. "Nothing," Murphy insisted. "It just started on its own." The display above the central platform changed, showing a new star system, then another and another. It was as if the ship was showing them a journey. "It's telling us its story," Dr. Walton breathed. The final image showed a planet surrounded by ships, dozens of them, with a design completely different from the vessel they stood in. And then, the planet cracked apart like an egg. A chill ran through the team as they watched the planet's destruction play out before them. Ellis touched her communication link. "Lunar Command, this is Ellis. We've found something you need to see." Back on Earth, George Rivera sat hunched over his computer. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept much. As a data analyst for Lunar Command, he had been studying the alien transmissions for days. The message "turn back" was simple enough, but George felt there was more to it. "There's something hidden in these signals," he muttered to himself. Patterns within patterns. He ran another analysis program he had written himself. This time he focused not on the words, but on the mathematical structure of the signal itself. Numbers appeared on his screen, forming equations that seemed to solve themselves. "That's it," he exclaimed, nearly knocking over his coffee. He pressed the button on his desk. "Sir, I need to speak with Director Powell right away." An hour later, George stood in front of a room of senior officials, including Director Powell and Admiral Freeman. "The alien transmission contains more than just those words," George explained, pointing to his display. "Embedded within the signal is a complex mathematical equation. When solved, it gives us coordinates to a nearby star system." "Which system?" asked Director Powell. "The same one marked on the star map that Commander Ellis's team found on the ship," George said. "But there's more. The signal also contains what appears to be historical records. He pressed a button, and images appeared on the screen. They showed a highly advanced civilization with incredible cities and technology. Then came images of another race of beings arriving in ships. The images that followed were disturbing. Planets being destroyed, people dying. The final entries show the survivors sending out warning beacons, George said quietly. One of those beacons was the ship we found. Admiral Freeman stood up. So the warning was real. They were trying to warn others about this aggressive race. Meanwhile, aboard the alien vessel, Dr. Kate Summers explored a small chamber off the main control room. The walls were covered with more of the shifting patterns, but here they seemed more active, almost alive with movement. "Dr. Walton, you might want to see this," she called out. As Walton entered the chamber, Dr. Summers pointed her scanner at a particularly bright section of the wall. "These energy readings are different from the rest of the ship. It's almost as if..." Before she could finish, the patterns on the wall suddenly flowed together, forming a shape that projected outward. It was a figure made of light, humanoid but clearly not human, with elongated limbs and no distinct facial features. Walton stumbled back. "Commander Ellis, we need you in here now." The light figure turned toward them and made a sound, not quite speech but a series of tones that their equipment began to translate. Communication interface activated. Query: "Are you the ones who ignored the warning?" Ellis rushed into the room, stopping short at the sight of the light figure. "What is it?" "I think it's an artificial intelligence," Dr. Summers whispered, a caretaker left behind to maintain the ship. Ellis stepped forward. "We are explorers from Earth. We found your vessel and came to learn." The figure seemed to consider this. "The warning was not just for your protection. It was for all life in this sector. By activating this vessel, you have triggered the beacon." "What beacon?" Ellis asked, a cold feeling growing in her stomach. "The one that will draw their attention," the figure replied. "The harvesters will now know that this system contains life worthy of collection." Back on Earth, all the screens in the command center suddenly went blank. Then one by one they lit up again, showing a single image. Massive ships, unlike either human or the discovered alien vessel, moving through space toward a recognizable point. "Those are the coordinates of our solar system," George said, his voice barely audible. Director Powell's face paled. "How long?" George studied the data. "Based on their apparent speed and distance, 3 months, maybe less." Admiral Freeman turned to Powell, his expression grim. "Now do you understand why the warning said to turn back?" But it was too late. The beacon had been triggered, and something was coming. Something that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity's. The emergency meeting room was packed. World leaders joined by video screens on the walls. Military generals sat with grim faces. Scientists clutched data tablets. At the center of it all stood Director Powell, who looked like she hadn't slept in days. "We have confirmed the information from both the Pioneer crew and our Earth analysis team," she said. "An advanced alien race called the Harvesters is heading toward our solar system. They will arrive in less than 3 months." The room erupted in voices. Some shouted questions, others demanded action. A few simply looked stunned. Admiral Freeman stood up. "We need to destroy the alien vessel immediately. Cut off the beacon at its source." "It's too late for that," said Commander Ellis from the video screen. She and her crew had returned to Earth on an emergency flight. "According to the AI we found, the signal has already been sent. Destroying the ship now won't make any difference." Dr. Walton, who stood beside Ellis, added, "The AI has given us valuable information about the harvesters. They systematically strip planets of resources, including all life forms. They've done this to hundreds of worlds." "Then we evacuate," said one of the generals. "Get as many people off planet as possible." "And go where?" asked Ellis. "We have no colony that could support more than a few thousand people. Earth's population is over 8 billion. The room fell silent as the reality sank in. "What about the AI?" Director Powell asked. "Has it suggested any defense?" Dr. Walton shook his head. "The civilization that built the warning vessel fought the harvesters and lost. Their technology was far beyond ours, and even they couldn't stop them." "So we're doomed?" someone asked. "No," Ellis said firmly. "The AI has been helping us understand harvester technology. They're advanced, but not invincible. Their ships were damaged in previous battles. They can be hurt. Director Powell straightened her back. Then we fight. We use every resource we have. We prepare Earth's defenses. Admiral Freeman laughed without humor. With what? Our most powerful weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Not necessarily, Dr. Summers spoke up. She pulled up data on her tablet. The AI has helped us understand some of the alien technology. If we work quickly, we may be able to adapt some of our weapons. And what if we fail? Admiral Freeman demanded. Then at least we tried, Director Powell said. Humanity doesn't surrender. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made, resources allocated, every scientist, engineer, and military mind on Earth focused on one goal: survival. Over the next weeks, the Pioneer was refitted with technology based on what they'd learned from the alien vessel. Weapon systems around Earth were modified. Space stations were converted to defensive platforms. Commander Ellis stood on the bridge of the Pioneer, now upgraded and ready for battle. She looked at her crew, all volunteers who knew the mission might be suicide. We've learned everything we can from the alien AI, she told them. We know the Harvester's weaknesses. We know their attack patterns. We have a chance. Lieutenant Garcia checked his weapons console. A small chance is better than none. Dr. Walton looked less confident. The AI has transferred all its knowledge to our systems. It says there's one more thing it needs to tell us, but it's waiting until... Until what? Ellis asked. Until we need it most, Walton replied. It said we wouldn't understand until then. Ellis nodded. She didn't like it, but they had no choice but to trust the AI now. On Earth, people went about their lives. Most didn't know what was coming. Governments had decided not to cause panic. Only those working on the defense effort knew the truth. Director Powell watched from her office window as the upgraded Pioneer departed Earth orbit to take position near Jupiter, their first line of defense. We should have turned back, she whispered to herself. But now we have no choice but to go forward. Far beyond Neptune, the first Harvester ships entered the solar system. The long-range telescopes spotted them first, strange shapes moving against the blackness of space, slowing as they approached Neptune. There were 7 large ships, each one bigger than the largest human spacecraft ever built. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Freeman watched the screens with Director Powell at his side. They're faster than we expected, he said quietly. The AI was right about their technology. What are they doing now? Powell asked, her voice steady despite her fear. Holding position just past Neptune, reported George Rivera from his station. They appear to be scanning our system. On the HFY Pioneer, positioned in Jupiter's orbit, Commander Ellis called her crew to battle stations. This is not a drill, she announced over the ship's speakers. The Harvesters have arrived. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Dr. Walton looked at the alien tech they had installed on the bridge. It glowed with a soft, blue light, interfaced with their human systems. The AI says the Harvesters always follow the same pattern, he reminded Ellis. They'll send smaller scout ships first before committing their main fleet. Ellis nodded. We'll be ready for them. They didn't have to wait long. 3 of the Harvester ships released smaller vessels that shot forward at incredible speed. Earth's outer defense fleet positioned near Saturn fired their weapons. Enhanced missiles streaked through space, carrying warheads modified with alien technology. Most missed their targets. The Harvester scouts were too fast, too maneuverable. But 2 missiles hit and 1 scout ship exploded in a burst of blue fire. They can be hurt, cheered Lieutenant Garcia, watching from the Pioneer. Their celebration was short-lived. The remaining scout ships easily broke through the outer defenses. They didn't even slow down as they passed, ignoring the human fleet entirely. They're heading straight for us, Ellis said, watching the scouts approach Jupiter. All weapons ready. Fire when they're in range. The Pioneer's enhanced weapon systems locked onto the approaching scouts. Energy beams lashed out, cutting through space. 1 scout took a direct hit, spinning out of control before breaking apart. We got another one, Garcia shouted. Don't celebrate yet, Ellis warned. Look, On their screens, they watched as the main harvester fleet began to move. All 7 massive ships were now heading toward Earth, breaking into dozens of smaller vessels as they came. "They're splitting up," Dr. Walton said. That wasn't in the AI's predictions. The remaining scout reached Jupiter's orbit and suddenly changed course, heading directly for the Pioneer. "Evasive action," Ellis ordered, but it was too late. The scout didn't fire weapons. Instead, it released a pulse of energy that washed over the Pioneer. All systems flickered and died. Emergency lights came on. "What happened?" Ellis demanded. "Some kind of electromagnetic pulse," Engineer Murphy reported. "Most systems are down. We're working to restore them." "The alien tech is still functioning," Walton noted, pointing to the blue glow that remained steady. On Earth, the situation was growing desperate. The harvester ships had bypassed most of the defensive fleet. They now positioned themselves in Earth's upper atmosphere and deployed strange devices that began to unfold. "What are they doing?" Director Powell asked. George Rivera analyzed the data coming in. "They're creating some kind of field around the planet. It's disrupting our electronic systems worldwide. All across Earth, power grids failed. Communications went down. Military bases lost contact with their weapons systems. In minutes, the most technologically advanced civilization in human history was crippled." Admiral Freeman slammed his fist on the table. "This is what the warning meant. They knew we couldn't stop this." "It's not over," Director Powell insisted. "The Pioneer is still out there, and we have one advantage the harvesters don't know about." "What's that?" Freeman asked. "Humans," Powell said, "are very good at fighting even when we're supposed to lose." Aboard the Pioneer, the lights flickered back on as emergency systems came online. Commander Ellis found Dr. Walton hunched over the alien technology interface. "Any good news?" she asked. "Maybe," Walton replied. "Before we lost contact with Earth, Dr. Summers and Engineer Murphy were working on something. A virus designed to infect the harvester network. A computer virus against their advanced technology?" "Not exactly," Walton explained. "It's based on the alien AI's code. The AI has been helping them create it. But we need to deliver it directly to one of their command ships." Lieutenant Garcia joined them. "So we need to get close enough to upload this virus. How do we do that when they've disabled most of our systems?" "The alien technology is still working," Walton pointed out. "If we can get close enough." Ellis nodded, understanding. "It would be a one-way trip." "I'll go," Garcia volunteered. Without hesitation, "Give me a small team and a shuttle equipped with the alien tech." On Earth, the situation was growing worse. The harvesters had begun landing smaller ships. Reports came in of strange machines collecting plants, animals, and even people. In the partially functioning command center, Director Powell received a weak transmission from the Pioneer. "They're going to attempt to upload a virus," she told Admiral Freeman. "It could disable the harvester network." "Can they do it?" Freeman asked. "The chances are small," Powell admitted, "but it's our only hope." On the Pioneer, a small team prepared for their mission. Lieutenant Garcia, Dr. Walton, and 2 crew members boarded a shuttle that had been modified with the alien technology. They carried the virus in a special data device. "Remember," Commander Ellis told them, "you only need to reach the command ship and connect to their systems long enough to upload the virus. The AI says it will spread on its own after that." Garcia saluted. "We won't let you down, Commander." The shuttle launched, using Jupiter's gravity to gain speed as it headed toward Earth, where the harvester command ship hovered in orbit. "They're not even trying to hide," Walton observed. "They don't see us as a threat." "That's their mistake," Garcia said grimly. As they approached Earth, they saw the destruction already taking place. Cities were dark. Harvester machines moved across the land. The sky was filled with strange lights from the invaders' ships. "There's the command ship," Garcia pointed. "The largest one in orbit." "They'll detect us soon," Walton warned. "Not if we use this," Garcia said, activating a system the AI had helped them install. The AI called it a shadow field. Should make us nearly invisible to their sensors. They approached the massive harvester ship. Up close, it was even more terrifying. A dark, jagged shape that seemed to swallow light. There, Walton pointed. An access point, just where the AI said it would be. Garcia guided the shuttle to the spot. With expert precision, he matched their speed to the harvester ship's orbit. Now or never, he said. Walton connected their systems to the harvester ship. Red warnings flashed on their screens. "They've detected us," Walton shouted. "Uploading the virus now." The shuttle shook as the harvester ship began to react. Metal arms reached out to capture them. Upload at 60%, 70%. Walton counted. 80%. "We won't make it," Garcia realized. He looked at his team. "It's been an honor." "Upload complete," Walton announced as the harvester's arms crushed their shuttle. Across Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. The harvester ships began to malfunction. Some turned against each other, firing weapons. Others simply shut down. The machines on the ground froze in place. In the command center, Director Powell watched in amazement. "They did it," she whispered. "They actually did it." Weeks later, as Earth began to rebuild, Commander Ellis stood in a quiet room with the alien AI interface now installed in a secure facility. "I still don't understand," she said. "Why did you help us defeat the harvesters? Why not just tell us to turn back as your creators wanted?" The AI's blue light pulsed gently. "The warning was never about protecting you," it answered. "It was about protecting them." "Them? The harvesters?" "Yes. My creators encountered many species. All fell to the harvesters. But they saw something different in humans. A capacity for survival, for adaptation, for fighting beyond all reason. They feared what would happen if humans were pushed too far." Ellis stared at the glowing interface. "You mean we were the greater threat?" "The galaxy has been watching humanity for millennia," the AI said. "You were the predators they feared most, merely waiting to be awakened." As Ellis left the room, she looked out at the salvaged harvester ships now in Earth orbit. With their technology, humanity would soon reach the stars. The final warning had been, turn back. They had ignored it and paid a price. But now the galaxy would pay attention. 5 years had passed since the harvesters came to Earth. The planet had healed from the scars of the invasion. Cities glowed with lights again. Fields grew crops. Children played in parks without fear. But Earth was different now. In orbit, shipyards filled the space where the harvesters had once threatened. Massive vessels took shape there, built with a mix of human innovation and harvester technology. They were warships, exploration vessels, and colony ships. Commander Ellis, now Admiral Ellis, stood on the observation deck of Lunar Command. Her hair had more gray now, and a long scar ran down her left cheek. But her eyes still held the same determination they always had. "The Vanguard fleet is ready for launch," reported Captain Laura Bell, who stood beside her. Ellis nodded. "All 10 ships?" "Yes, Admiral. The USS Garcia will lead the fleet." Ellis smiled at the name. They had named the flagship after Lieutenant Garcia, whose sacrifice had saved Earth. His memory lived on, as did the memories of all those who had fallen during the invasion. Down on Earth, Director Powell walked through a large hall where scientists worked with pieces of harvester technology. She was older now, moving with a slight limp from an injury during the rebuilding. But her mind was as sharp as ever. "Dr. Walton," she called, spotting the scientist at a workstation. "How is the new drive system coming along?" Walton looked up, smiling. He had been one of the few to survive the suicide mission. A harvester. Pod had picked up his escape capsule seconds before the command ship exploded. He had spent 2 months as their prisoner before being rescued, when the virus finally shut down all harvester systems. "We've improved the efficiency by another 20%, he said. "The Vanguard ships will reach Alpha Centauri in just under 11 months. "Excellent," Powell said. "And the weapon systems?" Walton's smile faded slightly. "Also improved. The new plasma cannons are twice as powerful as anything the harvesters had." In another part of the facility, Dr. Kate Summers worked with the alien AI interface. Over the years, she had formed a unique bond with the intelligence left behind by the long-dead civilization. "Show me again," she requested. The star systems where other harvester fleets were operating. The AI displayed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking harvester locations. "Most have gone silent since we deployed the virus through their network," the AI explained. "But 3 fleets were outside the network when it collapsed. They are still active. And they'll eventually discover what happened here," Summers said. "Yes. They will come to investigate." Summers nodded. This was why humanity was preparing. This was why the Vanguard fleet would launch tomorrow, not just to explore but to find the remaining harvesters before they found Earth again. In a training facility near the old Pioneer docking bay, George Rivera watched young cadets practice with new weapons based on harvester technology. As head of the new Interstellar Defense Academy, he was responsible for preparing the next generation. "Remember," he told them, "we don't just fight for Earth anymore. We fight for all life that can't defend itself." The cadets nodded seriously. They had grown up in the aftermath of the invasion. They understood the responsibility that now rested on human shoulders. That evening, Admiral Ellis met with the alien AI one last time before the fleet launch. "You knew this would happen all along," she said. "Your creators saw our potential." The AI's light pulsed gently. "They saw many possibilities. This was one of them. And now we're going to the stars with weapons and warships," Ellis said. "Just as they feared. Not just with weapons," the AI corrected. "With a desire to protect. That is what they did not foresee. Humans fight not just for themselves, but for others." Ellis looked out the window at the massive ships preparing to leave Earth. Tomorrow, humanity would take its first real steps into the galaxy. The harvesters had come to Earth expecting easy prey. Instead, they had awakened something ancient and powerful, humanity's true nature as defenders. The stars would soon learn. The final warning should have been heeded. Not for humanity's sake, but for any who would threaten the worlds under its protection.